Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about some important concepts in adjectives. I am sure you are all familiar with this part of speech called adjectives. So today we are not going to talk about definition of adjectives or types of adjectives, categories. We are going to talk about certain aspects of adjectives which we usually overlook. So that's why I have named the topic some important concepts in adjectives. It doesn't mean that other concepts are not important, but there are some uncommon concepts I wanted to discuss it with you today. Now, we all know that adjectives in a sentence provide a lot of information about any particular noun that it modifies, like information like shape, size, age, color, origin, material, purpose, etc. So some examples like he is a big man. It talks about the size of the man. Something like it is a round cup. So the word round is an adjective that gives us information about the shape of the cup. Then it is an old house, where old is an adjective, gives us some information about the house, the age, right? Age of the house. Then it is a red dress. Of course, it gives information about the color of the dress. It is a Chinese saucer. So the saucer, that when you say Chinese saucer, it doesn't mean that saucers are not found anywhere else, but it talks about the origin of the object. Something like it's an iron bridge made of iron, right? So when you say iron bridge, iron in itself is a noun, but here iron bridge, a compound noun in which the first noun iron works as an adjective, and it gives the information on material, what material the bridge is made of. Then she is a noble woman. It talks about the character and my opinion about that woman. Noble, right? It is an abandoned house. So this is my observation. So when I look at the house, and it seems that nobody has lived there for so many years, almost like abandoned, left the house. So that is the house which has not been lived in for years. Abandoned house. Abandoned is an adjective. Then it is a reading hall. So when it's a reading hall, so we have hall for multiple purposes, but when it's a reading hall, this word reading acts as an adjective and gives us the information on the purpose or the utility of this hall. So adjectives give you a lot of information about the noun, it modifies the noun. Then how do we identify adjectives in a sentence? So there are certain clues, but they are not the exhaustive list of clues and exhaustive rules, but it gives you a fairly good idea how to identify adjectives in a sentence. So look at the endings of the word, and when you look at the endings of the word, and when it ends in something like able, or sometimes you might find able, right? I hope you understand suffix and prefix, chunks of words added before any word, prefixes which come after, prefixes come after, before the word, and suffixes come after the word. So prefixes we are not talking about, we are talking about suffixes which come after the word. So suffixes like able, al, un, ent, full, ich, eichel, ein, I'll, I've, less, us, and some. So these are tentative tips and guesses out of which we can find adjectives in a sentence. So words like comfortable, comfort with the suffix able, comfortable. Uncomfortable, here we have a prefix and a suffix both. Prefix un and able suffix. But here we are not talking about prefixes, we are talking about the ending sounds of a particular word that denotes and helps you understand and identify adjectives in a sentence. So uncomfortable, definitely an adjective. Invisible, responsible, adorable. So they are adjectives because they end in able suffixes. Suffix like al. So you have viral, educational. Education is the word, al as a suffix added to it. Educational, gradual, critical, technical, and so on. So these are adjectives. Like Indian, India, Indian, America, American, Mexico, Mexican, urban, right? So these are adjectives. Are like popular, spectacular, right? Vulgar. So these are adjectives. And like competent, patient, intelligent, silent, violent. These are all adjectives. Endings like full. So shameful, powerful, harmful, thoughtful, beautiful. These are all adjectives. We can have endings like ik or eichel, like synthetic, problematic, athletic, energetic, magical, scientific, etc. These are all examples of adjectives. Words with endings like ein and they become adjective, like feminine, masculine, bovine, canine, equine. So these are the words which are essentially adjectives in that sentence. You can also look at "ile" for that matter. So words ending with "ile", right, like fragile, agile, docile, fertile, virile, etc. These are all adjectives. Then words ending with "ive", what do you call? So selective, predictive, informative, native, talkative, etc. These are all adjectives. Then endings like less. So harmless, careless, endless, homeless, senseless, etc. are all adjectives. Then again, few more examples like auspicious, delicious, notorious, cautious, dangerous. These are all examples of adjectives. One more ending like some. So tiresome, awesome, handsome, lonesome, wholesome. These are all adjectives. This list is not exhaustive, and this list only suggests, right, a few ways to identify adjectives in a sentence. So all the words that end in such endings like able, al, un, are, and, full, ich, ein, I'll, if, less, os, and some. Such an ending suggests that this must be an adjective. So, you can easily identify adjectives in that sentence. Not only form and shape of the word, but also placing of the word, positioning of the word also suggests that it is an adjective. So, we will come to that later. Now, when we say adjective, we need to understand the function of an adjective, and the function of an adjective is to modify a noun, give us information about the noun. It elaborates details, right, about the noun. So, there may be cases where a noun may be detailing another noun. So, two nouns put together in which one noun acts as an adjective, one noun as pure noun. So, compound nouns for that matter, like dinner table. In this word, dinner table, dinner is noun, table is also noun. It's two nouns together. But in this composition, the first word dinner acts as an adjective modifying or giving the purpose, information about the purpose of the second noun, that is table. So, dinner table. Music class, right. Music in itself is a noun, class is also a noun, but the first noun music gives information about the type of the class. So, music acts as an adjective in this composition, in this compound noun, music class or study room or cricket player. So, all such combinations where two nouns occur together in a sentence and they look like a compound noun, but the first noun acts an adjective modifying the following noun, right. So, this is how noun modifies another noun and acts as an adjective. Then we need to understand the placing. I told you the placing of the adjectives, they are also very significant and important. Usually you might have learnt, and everywhere we have been taught, that adjectives precede noun. So, adjectives in English, adjectives precede noun, and it modifies or gives information, details about the noun. So, those adjectives which come before noun are called attributive adjectives. And why do we call attributive? Because it attributes certain information, it gives us certain information of the following noun. So, any word in such cases which comes before the noun is an attributive adjective, right. Something like this is a wonderful proposal, or this is an effective proposal, or this is a great proposal. So, if you look at proposal, it is a noun, but preceding words like great, like wonderful, like effective, they are all adjective. And they are which type of adjective? They are attributive adjective, okay, because they attribute to the following noun. Like you are an honest person, so person is a noun, honest adjective. I have an old car, attributive adjective, old and car. So, it gives information about, it is called attributive because it gives information about my car, age of the car. Then this is a big book, right. So, book is the noun and big is adjective, attributive adjective. It talks about the size of the book. But not all adjectives come only before noun, but some come after the verb as well. But even if they come after the verb, they still modify the noun, and they are like complements. they complete the sense, they complete the sentence, right, and they occur after the verb in the predicate, and they are called predicative adjectives. So, something like this person looks suspicious, right. Suspicious is an adjective, but here it is not followed by a noun. It does not precede a noun. In fact, it follows a verb, looks, but it modifies the person, right. It talks about the person, it gives us information about the person, which is the subject of the sentence, right. Subject of the sentence is always a nominal phrase, a noun phrase. So, this person looks suspicious. Suspicious is the adjective, but it follows the verb, it comes after the verb. It is predicative adjective. Like this place seems unsafe. So, unsafe is an adjective, but it follows the verb seem, but still modifies the subject of the sentence, this place, right. Then she is beautiful. Beautiful is an adjective, follows the verb be, is, and still modifies the subject of the sentence, she. This book is big, same example. So, attributive adjectives precede the noun, they come before the noun. Predicative adjectives follow the verb, right, and occurs in the predicate, the subject and predicate. So, this adjective occurs in a sentence in the predicate of the sentence, but still modifies the subject of the sentence, the noun. So, this is predicative adjective, right. I hope the distinction of attributive and predicative adjective is clear to you, right. So, attributive, it comes right with the noun, it precedes the noun, and predicative, it occurs in the predicate, but modifies the subject of the sentence. It completes the sense, also known as complementary adjectives. It complements the sentence, it completes the sense of the sentence. Okay. But the same adjective can be attributive or predicative, but the meanings are entirely different. The same adjective occurring as attributive adjective gives you a different meaning, but the same adjective occurring as predicative adjective gives you a different meaning. The meanings are not the same. Words may remain the same, adjective may remain the same, but the positioning as attributive or predicative changes the meaning. So, some examples for you are here, like this particular work is so demanding that we need to give it some extra time. Look at this sentence. This particular work is so demanding that we need to give it some extra time. Look at the word particular. In this sentence, this word particular is an adjective, attributive adjective because it precedes the work, noun, and here it means a specific work, particular work, specific. So, a specificity of the work is being highlighted here, attributed here. But in the second sentence, corresponding sentence with the same adjective particular, look at this sentence. My father is very particular. He does not approve my coming home late. Right? So, when I am late, my father doesn't approve it. He is very particular about the timing, punctuality. Right? So, here particular means not easy to persuade, not easy to accept any other thing other than what he believes in. So, particular here right, as a predicative adjective gives you a different meaning as compared to the particular in the first sentence on the left as attributive adjective. There it denotes a specificity. Here it denotes the character, right. Similarly, look at the second sentence. Her late husband left huge wealth after him. Late, but late here means deceased, dead, not delay. But look at the second sentence. Some of you are always late in your class. So look at the word late here. In this attributive, in the attributive sense of the word, that adjective late refers to someone who is deceased or dead. But in the other corresponding example, what we see, late here means delay, right? Not on time, not punctual. So some of you are always late in your class, right? Look at another example. There are certain reasons for this delay in the project. Certain. Look at the word certain. It is attributive adjective. Reason, right? Certain reasons. So here certain means something, but not what specific thing, right? But in the other predicative use of the same adjective, certain, look at the sentence. I was certain that you would succeed in your efforts. So here certain means sure, definite, and there indefinite, not sure. So what we can see, the positioning, changed position of the same adjective, if it is used as attributive, it gives you a separate meaning. If it is used as predicative, it gives you a separate meaning. I hope this is clear to you now. Okay, let us move on. So we talked about compound nouns, where two nouns are put together and the first noun actually acts as an adjective to the following noun. Look at the sentence. He has an expensive music system, right? That is a high performance machine. So look at these two nouns. So a noun is sometimes used before another noun to give more information about it, and they are noun modifiers, right? Adjective come before the noun modifier, then the actual noun follows. So we have two levels, two layers of modification here of the same noun. One is adjective and one preceding noun. So how a compound noun is being used here? Look at it. Look at the sentence. He has an expensive music system. So the indefinite article an, because it starts in a vowel sound, expensive, an adjective, music, a noun, system, a noun. So actually the main noun which is being modified in the sentence is system, the second noun. The first noun also acts an adjective in addition to the obvious adjective expensive. So we have two adjectives here, two modifiers here. An expensive music system. System as a noun is being modified, one by music, another noun, other by expensive and adjective, right. So here music is a noun modifier, right. That is a high performance machine. Machine is being modified, but performance also is a noun. High, of course, is an adjective. So adjectives occur before noun phrase, compound nouns. So within that compound noun also you have another modifier, the first noun, and the second noun is being modified. So he has an expensive music system, where system is the main noun being modified by music, again modified by expensive. here that is a high performance machine, where machine is the main noun being modified by performance and the noun, and also further modified by an adjective high in the sentence. Now, let us quickly look at certain orderings of adjectives in a phrase, noun phrase. So, before a noun, attributive we have already talked about. So, if it comes immediately before a noun, it is an adjective. For example, red dress, red is an adjective, it comes before the noun. Between an article and a noun, it is certainly an adjective, something like the dirty room. So, room and dirty, right? Dirty comes between the and room, dirty is definitely an adjective. Between a possessive and a noun, so his big office, big is an adjective, right? Ram's white shoes, a possessive, Ram's, and shoes noun, and white is an adjective. Between demonstrative and a noun, so if a word comes between a demonstrative pronoun like this, that, these or those and a noun, it may be an adjective. For example, that aggressive moment, aggressive is an adjective here, right? Between an amount and a noun, it is definitely an adjective, like if a word comes between an amount including some, most, all, a few and a noun, it is definitely an adjective. For example, a few ordinary things, ordinary is an adjective, right, describing things. As we talked about predicative adjectives, they work as a complement, right? They complete the sense of the sentence, they complete the sentence. Without them, sentence cannot be completed. The predicate is not complete. So, she is intelligent, predicative adjective, intelligent. He is sharp, witty and responsive, sharp, witty, responsive, all adjectives completing the sentence, because they complete the sentence, they are also called complements, right. Now, if you have a longer chunk of words, a phrase with something like before noun, attributive functions along with degree of adverbs, right, something like indefinite article, then a degree adverb, then an adjective and a noun. Look at this phrase, an or a, whatever is applicable here. Fairly cold day, very cold day, moderately cold day, extremely cold day, absolutely cold day. So, this article will come before the degree adverb, right. It cannot be like fairly a cold day, very a cold day, moderately a cold day. No, it has to be a fairly cold day, a very cold day, a moderately cold day, or an extremely cold day, or an absolutely cold day. So, you have to understand and keep this in mind. There are certain unique cases like quite, rather, right. They are not very prolific in the language, but there are certain cases where we have to understand the ordering of these elements in a particular chunk. Something like quite an expensive item, a quite expensive item, you can say that, but that is not common, and it may occur in written form, but that is not common, and we say quite an expensive item, right, like a rather painful decision. We can also say rather a painful decision, but in writing, not in spoken form. So, commonly it is not used. So, commonly we use a rather painful decision, right, quite an expensive item. So, words like quite, rather, they have unique ordering of the constituents in that phrase that we have to keep in mind. So, thank you very much. I hope these additional information on adjectives will be helpful to you, and we will review and revise adjectives once again.